Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel, The Mass Resident. I'm your friendly neighborhood surgical resident, Dr. Meharish, who is almost done with her residency. So just here to spread positive vibes and information regarding residency and to give you motivation and to help those of you who are actually looking for information to get into the residency in Dubai itself to achieve their dream. So the main focus of my page is actually to give out information regarding how to apply to and get into residency, but a lot of it is also based also on like just general motivation on surviving a career in medicine and surviving through residency and whatnot. So I do want to do some breakthrough videos, or I have been doing some breakthrough videos in between to just keep the page a bit more inspiring and alive and not just information based. So this is like one of those videos. I've been thinking of things that I want to put out there in terms of information and in terms of things that I have learned from experience over the last 5 years being a surgical resident. So this is just one of those videos where I will be talking about surviving life as a general surgery resident in Dubai. Now, this particular video is kind of targeted towards people who are not living with family. And by family, I mean like there are a lot of you who have parents here and who are living with parents. And like you're living out of home and then you are commuting to residency and back from home. And living with parents kind of mean that a lot of your things are still taken care of, like you're not expected to pay rent or worry about like cooking or food or or like whatever income you are getting in terms of the resident salary is not going into it's going into like your own pocket. You don't have to pay anything in terms of any bills or electricity, or your probably like not even like a car loan. I mean, that depends, but still, you see what I mean. So it's not like I'm not trying to throw shame or shade here. You know if you're living with your parents and you have that kind of life and support system and you have like the financial background to support yourself through residency, that is honestly the best, because the kind of financial and the financial and emotional support being at home can give you is something else, because you have literally nothing to worry about. All you have to do is just be a resident and then come back home. That's it. So that's like amazing for you, and if you have that, that's great. Full cheers to you. I wouldn't say this video is not meant for you. There are going to be certain points that I'll try to highlight that are also kind of aiming towards everybody who is a resident. But a lot of the points that I'm going to talk about in this video is basically going to be for people who are not living with their parents. Now, this could be people who are living like by themselves. There are people who are living away from family, all kinds of family, and have to come here just to do residency. Though that is, I believe, maybe not that common, but still there may be people like that who are living away and completely by themselves. So this one is targeted very much for you. It's also targeted for people who are actually currently living with their partners, because that's an entire different ball game. Not to say that partners aren't supportive and partners aren't, they're not emotionally or financially supporting. In fact, when I started my residency, I was not married. My parents were here, but I wasn't living with them because they were living in Sharjah, and it was very difficult for me. And I did not have my driving license back then. So my dad had to literally drop me really early morning all the way from Sharjah to Dubai. And anybody who's living in the UAE knows the crazy traffic from UAE to Sharjah, from Dubai to Sharjah, back and forth. So I didn't want to trouble them too much. So I had decided that as soon as I get accepted into residency, I will move out and find my own, like a sharing space in Dubai close to a metro, so that I can commute and so I did. The first couple of months of my residency, I actually was living by myself, in the sense like in a shared space, but like not with family. So that meant that I had to take care of myself in terms of food and commute, and all of that was like on me. Of course, for the weekends and for the time off, I used to go back to home, and like they were still kind of financially supporting me, because Back then we were not paid during the first 3 months of residency. It was called a probation period, and we were not given pay. So my dad was still paying for my rent and like paying for like, giving me money so I can like take care of myself and all of that. So that's like one part of it. But on the other hand, like, certain things such as like making sure that I feed myself and then I get enough rest and I commute back and forth and I arrange my day and everything was up to me. So I would say that that was like, minus the part where the financial aid was coming directly from my parents, it was kind of living on your own. And the other part of it is that as soon as that phase was over, I did move into my own home with my partner, who I then had gotten by then, like I had gotten married and I moved in with him. And that's a whole different ball game, because now you are in charge of your own life. So your partner may be, what do you say, like, maybe financially well settled, or maybe he's also starting out in a job. But regardless, at that point, you guys are having your own life, right? And you're like funding your own life. So that means your rent is your own, your bills are your own, taking care of food and everything else is on your own. So that's also like kind of, that this video also applies to them, because that's the kind of life I have led through most of my residency, where I was married to my partner, and then we have tackled all of life stuff together in terms of expenses and like time and everything. So this is meant for those people. Of course, if you're just interested to know how to tackle it when you might reach that stage, feel free to watch. But yeah, this is mainly intended for those people. So because I've been talking about family and partners and everything, I'm going to start with the biggest point of all. So I'm getting into the video right now, and I'm going to start with all the things that have helped me, or all the things that I have used to survive these 5 years of a hectic residency program in general surgery. The first and foremost thing, and that's the thing that I have started to touch base on, is actually having a good support system. Now, for those of you again who are living with family, probably that support system is a given and it's already there, and they have supported you obviously through your journey to get into residency, and they're aware of all of the work and stress and everything, and they have probably offloaded you from a lot of it, and that's super great. I do know that certain people might not have a lot of support from home in terms of the career they're pursuing. Maybe their family is not happy with their career choice. But even then, as long as you're going back to your parents, into your parents' house, and you're living there, even if you don't have a lot of emotional support, you do have a lot of like life support in terms of finances and food and rent and a roof over your head and everything. So that's great. What I'm talking about a support system is mostly like an emotional support system. So I really feel like to survive residency, the most important thing you need is a very understanding family. Okay? Because your family is, I mean, at least for most people, your family is the biggest thing to you, whether that be your parents or your siblings or your partner or your children. Family is the biggest thing. Now, I know that I'm a little deficient in the aspect of how to handle children through residency, because I've not had a child throughout residency. So I will unfortunately not be touching on that topic because I don't have any experience to talk about it. But I can talk about handling family and handling a married life and having a partner. So why I'm saying it's so crucial that they understand is because obviously residency life is very hard. Your hours are crazy. The kind of work that you do leaves you really, really drained some days. You go for work and then there's so much of decision fatigue and empathy fatigue, and like you're just like mentally drained. Even though the hours in UAE are actually pretty great and the normal hours are pretty great, and it doesn't really physically exhaust you too much, you still come back quite mentally drained. And it's very important to have partners or to have family members who really understand that what you are doing takes a lot of mental stamina and mental strength. So obviously in life you will have a lot of life problems, like ups and downs in life. You'll be dealing with a lot of life issues, and you may not be able to function like a full-fledged adult or human being during these times, because you are just so drained from being an adult at work all day. And that's why it's super important to have a support system that really gets that. Now I know for a lot of people a support system is not something you can choose, like your parents or something that's already, like, it exists in your life. You can't really change or choose your parents. And for a lot of people, like, like, you probably have not gotten the opportunity to maybe choose a partner, like your partner was somebody who was like arranged to, you had an arranged marriage and that was the case. But this is something that I'm talking about for people maybe who are in the space of deciding who to pick for a partner, or if you are like, you have the you have the you have the choice to actually choose a partner for yourself. Please know that a partner who understands your career is very, very important. I am in no way saying that you need to pick a partner in the field. In fact, my husband is not from the field, and I am grateful every day for that, because I feel like if I had to come back and his like life and work also revolves around medicine, I would be completely saturated. Like I would have absolutely no break from medicine, and that would probably have driven me crazy. But that's just me. There are people who feel like, people, if you have a partner in the medical field, they will really be in it with you and they will really understand what's going on, and like, be able to, that's also fair. But I will tell you one thing: you can have a partner who is in the medical field or not in the medical field, and the support will still be a spectrum. You can have a partner in medical field who can be really unsupportive because they feel like they're also going through a lot of stress, so they don't have the mental capacity to handle you, so that can happen. Or it can be the other end, where they know what they're going through, so they know what you're going through, and they can be really, really supportive and helpful. On the other hand, you can have the other side, where you have a partner who's completely detached from the medical career, who has no idea what you're going through, and like does not give you a break, and like does not, like, does not emotionally understand, and then gives you a hard time when you're dealing with a bad day. Or you can have a person who doesn't understand anything but still understands that what you do on a day-to-day basis is very tough. They may not be able to process it entirely, but they still understand and try to understand that, hey, you know what, this is something hard, and I need to, like, take care of you emotionally or mentally. And that just goes one step further if you're an ambitious girly like me. So it's one thing to have a career in medicine, that itself is demanding. It's another thing to be ambitious in medicine, in terms of, well, if you know my profile, you know that I didn't just stop at being a resident. I took up so many extra stuff, like I was chief, and then I was vice president of the council, and then I was doing so many extra stuff outside. I had a lot of time that I was like spending on other things. And the thing about it is that even though my partner was not a medical professional himself, he was somebody who I knew, who understood my ambitions, who understood my field, and he who himself was quite ambitious. So even though he didn't understand the field itself, he understood ambition. So I think what's most important in a partner, choosing a partner for yourself, if you are in a position where you have to make that choice, is a person who understands ambition. Doesn't have to be a person who's in medicine and understands medicine, but a person who understands ambition and drive, and needing to give your 101% to your job at a lot of time, because it's something that you're passionate about, and it's something that you worked really hard and you want to put all your energy in during this critical 4 to 5 years. And then, you have to, like, this is what you have to give for the job to work. Now, ambition doesn't really translate to medicine itself, right? A person who is ambitious can also be a person who's ambitious in business. Like, what if I was not at all into the medical career, but I was passionate about growing a business? And a business takes time to grow. It takes, like medicine, it's like a full-time commitment. There is no weekends or weekdays or time off. You kind of committed to growing your business every day. And if a partner did not understand that, then it wouldn't work, right? So it's super important to have a partner who understands your goals and visions, even if they don't understand your particular field or career. So I don't want to call this a tip or anything, but I just want to say that why I put this out there first is because a lot of people have this feeling that, oh, if I am going to be a resident, then I can't have a family, I can't have a marriage, I can't have a partner. They have all of these feelings because they're concerned that like nobody will understand them. But just know that it is very much possible to do all of that, provided you have the right support system. Like, ladies, you can have it all, trust me. And even the guys may also be worried. Like, girls nowadays are not like, like before, where they used to just tolerate their husbands doing everything. So even guys might be thinking, oh, if I get married, then she's not going to understand my profession and all. No, believe me, if you have a partner who understands ambition, you're good to go. Okay, it obviously involves a lot of communication. There will be days where they get frustrated from the stuff that you have to let go, but that's all just secondary. Primarily what's going to happen is they're really going to understand that your job is something that's very important to you, and you have to give this time and dedication for it. Okay, so I'm just gonna get that out of the way, because I felt like I started out with that, so I should like just lean into it and finish it off. Now, the next few things I'm going to say are really practical tips, okay, on how to survive residency. The most important thing that I have to say is self-care. Residency is a very difficult journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint, especially residency programs abroad, like places like here in Dubai and everything. Residencies are really long, so they last anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 years. And these 6 years of your life are gonna be really hectic. You'll be spending a lot of time in the hospital, but it's very important that you don't neglect yourself, your health, and your physical state in this period. Now, how that translates to is, please join a gym. And if gym is not something that works for you, and I will get back to that, but if something that you cannot absolutely tolerate, then look for activities that keep you physically fit. It can be anything: jogging, cycling, paddle, tennis, I don't know, whatever, something that keeps you moving and keeps you motivated to go and like attend it. Please kind of make sure that you actually do that. Okay, I'm sorry, I got something between. So please make sure that you actually enroll into some kind of activity that keeps you physically active and fit, because most of the time when you start residency, you're kind of in your mid-20s, right? So you, like, if you followed a normal track, you probably went into medical college somewhere in your like late teens, like 18, 19 or so, and then you kind of got out in like mid-20s, and then maybe a couple of years here and there, and you will be in your later 20s in your residency. And later 20s is a great time because your body is still like in that youth phase, but the toll that residency takes on your body is going to be really high, and you're going to age super fast if you don't take care of yourself. And by taking care of yourself, I do mean staying active, but I also mean to do a lot of strength training. Now, this is where I said I'll talk about getting back to the gym. Now, strength training is not something that I believed in or I did from the get-go. I was a very active girl from college days. Like, I used to love running. I still love running. I used to like wake up really early morning and go for a morning jog. That was my jam. I used to do a lot of yoga and a lot of like breathing and like, sort of like centering kind of stuff. And I was a person who like, did a lot of activity. Like, I did a lot of home workouts and mat workouts and all of these things. And I used to always keep active. So being active was always a part of my motto from like college itself. And it was only in recent years, maybe like in third year or so, that I picked up strength training. I started it as a kind of, oh, let me try this. And believe me, I regret so much that I did not start it so much earlier. As everybody, I had this notion that, oh, strength training is gonna bulk you up, and I'm a girl and I don't want muscle and all of that drama. But I don't want this to turn into a fitness video, and I'm not gonna take it in that direction. But just understand that you will not be like, muscle is something, it's not just to bulk up, it is the substance of your physique. Okay, it's the thing that keeps you active, it's the thing that gives you energy, it's the thing that gives you energy not just to do physical stuff but also mental energy. Okay, and you will really 1000% notice that change when you actually start going to the gym and start strength training. When I started strength training, my energy levels just shot high up, and it was like I used to have more energy at work. I used to have more energy to follow my hobbies after work. I used to have more energy overall. My sleep quality shot up through the roof. My mental processing skills was amazing. And all of these things are overall great for a resident and also just great for a person in general. Like, because I don't want to go to work and be so tired out that I come back and I have no energy, like even on my off days, to pick up an activity that I like. And strength training is what's going to help you to get there. Okay, there are so many studies and researches and stuff that show the benefits of strength training that's beyond the body. So if you have been on the fence about it, or if you have not been sure about it, please take it from me and join a gym, start strength training. If the moment you get your residency application, or even before, make sure you have joined a gym. Now, another thing that you might be thinking is, yeah, joining a gym is easy, going is hard. Yes, going is very, very, very hard because you are going to be a resident. Your hours are going to be psychotic, but it is not impossible. If you put your mind to it, anything is possible. Okay, now if there were days like that I had to go and start pre-rounds at 6:30, and I used to go to the gym at 4. Like I used to wake up at 4, be the gym from 4:30 to 5:30, shower at the gym, and go to work and be at work by like 6:30, do my pre-rounds and stuff, and then work starts at 7:30. Like, if you want it, okay, you can do it. Believe me, there is nothing that can stop you. And you might think, oh my god, why would I want to wake up at like 5, like 3 or 4 in the morning, and that's going to make me really tired? Believe me, it does not. When you wake up early morning and get that workout in, and then you get it out of the way, the only thing that happens, you get really hungry. But hunger out of the way, that sort of, it's like honestly waking up in the morning and taking a massive shot of caffeine, but like a good healthy caffeine that makes your body feel great, your mind feel great, you just like power through the day. And it's incredible. Like, believe me, it's incredible. And I will stand by that 1,000 times, that this is very, very important that you stay active and also strength train. So that will be the biggest thing that I have to say about surviving residency and coming out on the other side with your mental sanity, your physical strength, and your stamina and your ambition. Coming out on the other side almost as good as the person you were, if not better, to start strength training. On that same note of self-care, we're going to talk about nutrition. Now, I know as a resident, it's very difficult to, I mean, again, I'm talking about people who are not going back home to their family, to their parents, and like, who don't have like a cook at home and all of these things. It's very difficult to keep your nutrition on track, and it's so easy to fall onto the takeout, to the takeout wheel, and be like ordering in every day, eating unhealthy, eating like packeted processed foods. All of these things are like, it becomes unavoidable. And I'm not gonna lie, I have not been like a health fitness freak for the whole 5 years, but I have found out certain things, and I have done certain things to like, make my nutrition as healthy as possible. The most important thing, and I don't think this is something that some new knowledge that I'm imparting, one of the most important things is that you can do as a resident is meal prep. And by meal prep, I mean things like, okay, so obviously you know that Instagram and YouTube have a lot of videos and like make ahead meals with chicken. I'm not talking about that. For me, the most important meal prep was the meal prep of breakfast. Okay, because like I said, it goes hand in hand with my previous point, where if you're going to wake up that early in the morning and if you're going to go to the gym, you're not going to get the benefits of that gym workout or that workout in early morning days if you are not nourishing yourself immediately post. And then you are so blind with hunger, like you might just eat everything off the bat, and that really just backfires. So that's why maintaining a meal prep breakfast is so important. For a lot of years, I relied on multiple kinds of smoothies. So smoothies are really easy to make ahead on the previous day, and I can just like bottle them up and keep them in the fridge and just have to grab it and go in the morning. Towards the end, I turned into a fad of overnight oats, which were also a favorite. I did it for years. Like, I used to just take overnight oats. And you might think this is pretty boring, but honestly, it's not, because all of these things, you can change up the flavor, and like, you can try so many different combinations, and it really never gets boring. Honestly, like at a certain point, you just get used to it because it's so filling, and it feels so good to be that prepared to tackle your day, that you just like, you know, you're awake, you go to the gym, you have like your prepped meal to have, and then like it just powered through the day. It's amazing. It's an amazing way to survive residency. Okay, take it from me, that's how I did it, and how I have did it with my sanity still intact, and my like physical health and my mental health and everything still intact, is by following these two golden rules. The other thing is, well, breakfast is not the only meal of the day, right? You still have obviously lunch and dinner to think about. Now, most of the time when you have like lunch, is gonna be lunchtime, at least is gonna be something that's gonna come in the middle of your working day. Now, at the hospitals, you do have cafeterias where they have like certain meals are not available, which can be one of your go-tos, at least to an extent. You know, they're not like heavily processed, and they're kind of, you get a tad bit more healthier options. So I'm not going to talk too much about lunch there. Again, meal prepping for lunch is also an option, and you can like prep for lunch, because again, I don't want to make this video as something that's like, you know, like I'm only going to talk about things that were practical for me. For me, it was did not seem practical at all to carry lunch, because most of the time it was impossible for me to even like have the lunch. What I used to do was take an extra portion of my breakfast. So my breakfast and my lunch were kind of my overnight oats. So I used to take like 2 portions or a large portion, and kind of just like divide it throughout the day and just like keep myself full. And then in between, if it was one of those days which is kind of light and I had time, I used to go grab a lunch. So I'm not gonna make this all seem like, oh, I know I was the best person in terms of having lunch every day. Please, I was not. I'm just telling you what worked for me and what I think would really benefit you in terms of like, you know, following certain advices that I'm giving out. Now, again, another thing that I feel is very important is when you come back and then, you know, you have to have another nutritious meal. If you are good with coming back and cooking and then having that meal, hats off to you. Cooking is the bane of my existence. I like cooking when I'm cooking for my own joy. Like if I find a recipe that I like and then I cook a meal on a weekend, you know, like very comforted, and I cook for pleasure. Like I like cooking for pleasure. I love baking for pleasure, but cooking for survival is the bane of my existence. Unfortunately, you need to eat at least 2 to 3 meals a day to survive, and if I have to cook every day, I would go crazy. I did, honestly. Telling you, I gave it an honest shot towards the beginning of my residency, where I was coming back and making a quick meal every night, but it was taking to, and then like, you know, cooking is not just cooking, right? Like you're prepping, you're cooking, you're cleaning. And, oh my God, it just like drained me so fast. So I really had to find out another way as to, you know, feed myself. Obviously, the most obvious choice is if you have a cook who can come in, and if you can afford that, and if you're living with your partner, and that's also something that I have tried. But again, it becomes very difficult for a resident because your timings are so off, and maybe some days you're off or this or that. In short, what worked for me and what I am recommending here in this video is a meal plan. So there are a lot of services that offer meal plan, and I know that what you're gonna say, and what you're thinking is that, oh my God, meal plans are crazy expensive. And yes, actually they are crazy expensive, at least the most heard of one. I did a lot of research, and I have a meal plan. I had a meal plan. It was with Meals on Me. I'm going to drop the link below, which was very affordable. They have a variety of things, and you can choose what you want to have ahead of time, and they give you the nutritional breakdown, and the meals just come to you like at a fixed time every day, and you know that they are nutritious and they are balanced, and like, you know, it's filling. So it's like, that was good. So for the longest time, me and my husband used to survive on the weekdays on meal plans, where they just used to come drop the meal off. We would like, you know, we used to each order our own meals, and we used to like have them at night and call it a day, and then like retire for the night. So meal plans are, I believe, a resident's best friend, especially affordable ones like Meals on Me. This is what has gotten me through many years of residency. Like I said, I have tried different things. I've tried cooking by myself, but the one that I found most useful was 100% having a meal plan. So I'm gonna say that there. And now, the next thing that I want to talk about is just handling the other part of life. So now we've talked about feeding yourself, we've talked about taking care of your body. Now the other thing is obviously taking care of your home. Now again, this doesn't apply if you're living in a shared space. Usually in shared spaces you have somebody who comes in to do cleaning for you. If you're staying at home, you don't have to worry about any of these things. If you are living by yourself, or if you're living with a partner with whom you split the household chores, and who also has like a reasonable, like, a very difficult job, then you know that keeping the house intact and doing all these mundane chores are going to, there's something unavoidable, right? Like you have to clean the house, you have to make sure the laundry is done, all of these things. My advice for this is, even if it takes a chunk of your money, a chunk of your salary, please outsource everything that is repetitive and mundane. Okay, depends on your level of, like, comfort to give out, like, of the service that you want to afford. Like, if you're lucky enough to find, like I was lucky enough to find a maid who was charging a reasonable rate, so she used to come once in a week to clean and, like, clean the whole house and everything. And the laundry was like split between us, but even then, when the laundry was, there were days when, like, there were too many shifts and we couldn't do it. We used to give the laundry out, the ironing was always given out, the maid used to come to clean the house. So any of the things that stresses you out in terms of chores, please try to unburden yourself. Residency itself, it's a big burden on your head. You don't need to unnecessarily add chores on your head. So if somebody is making you feel guilty about that, give them a whack across and then tell them that this is enough and you need some mental space to function as a human being. And so don't feel guilty about outsourcing anything and everything that you can outsource. Okay. One thing that I wanted to mention, yeah, and going along the track of outsourcing, another thing that will really help you is to invest in really good gadgets. Okay, now some gadgets that I will talk about here, one is the one that I have had for a long time, another is one that I'm considering now. The first thing is the RoboVacs. You guys know that one, where it's like, it's a robot vacuum. They're a bit pricey, but they are all, like, you have multiple ranges and everything. And then, but we invested in one long back ago, where, like, so you could have a maid who comes in like every week or once every 2 weeks or whatever, but in between the house is going to get messy, right? You are living in it, there's gonna be like certain things and, I don't know, certain places and all, and then it's gonna kind of drive you nuts. And then if you're the kind of person who likes kind of living in a mess, then maybe it doesn't bother you, but it's always nice. And as you become more adult, you'll always find that you want to come back to a clean home. And when that is a priority to you, when you come back and the home is not clean, you find it very, very distressing. So invest in good gadgets that help you keep the house clean, again, by offloading mundane tasks like vacuuming. So a RoboVac. If you're somebody who still cooks at home and, like, still like has, even if you don't do a lot of cooking, you have some cooking, but plates accumulate, or like dishes that you meal prep and you take accumulate, and you don't want to spend time scrubbing and rubbing and all of that stuff, a dishwasher, obviously. And if you have a pet like I do, something that I have been considering now is like the automatic litter that actually cleans out the litter by the end of the day, and all I have to do is like kind of take the bag out, is also something I'm considering. Basically, the whole gist of all of these points is that you are kind of limited in terms of salary. Okay, but use your salary wisely and invest in expensive purchases which are going to make your life easier. Do not be afraid to splurge on these things that are gonna offload you mentally, because that shit is priceless. Okay, the kind of mental peace you get from offloading tasks that like drain you, like you could come back from a tired, you're like, oh my god, I have to clean my cat's litter, and if that's like draining your thoughts every day, then pitch in, like plan ahead, do some calculations, save ahead, and then invest in something that will make that chore so much easier and automated. Nowadays there's so much of technology. There's technology for literally everything, so it's not very difficult to find things that will help you, again, offload these tasks. So I heavily recommend doing that. So because we touched a little bit on savings there, I'm going to talk about in my next point, I'm going to smoothly just slide into my next point, which is regarding saving during residency. Now, I know residents earn like crap. I know. Um, I feel bad saying that because it's actually, when you compare, we earn pretty well when you compare with other places and stuff. But the living costs in Dubai is actually pretty high. So you know that like the earning only matters if you don't have to spend that much money. But you have to spend a lot of money, like I said, in your rent and your bills. And like if you have like, again, if you're outsourcing a lot of things, a lot of money goes in that. And then you might really not have a big amount left. But as an adult, I think it's very, very important that no matter how little you are earning, that you put aside how much ever you can. Like it could be as less as, like, if the resident, the residents earn like 12 to 13K, at least expat ones, even if it's like 1,000 dirhams, even if it's like 500 dirhams, but just every month try to put aside something in the name of savings. Okay, why I insist on this is because it gives you a little bit of financial security feeling. Even if the amount is not great, probably if you really have a financial emergency, you're still gonna have to borrow money from your parents or from the bank or something. But just the fact that you are doing something responsible, and you are doing something that, like, whatever you can with whatever you have, is a great mentality to inculcate from now, and it's going to really help you going forward. Now, I know this is a very controversial point. It's not really how I survived residency, like, sort of thing. But why I am mentioning this is because maybe when it leads to my next point, it might make some sense. But savings for me was always important because there were certain things, like, that I knew that I might want to do, and I didn't want to get caught without money at that time. Okay, now for example, again, I'm gonna go into my next point very smoothly from this, which is, don't forget to enjoy your life in the process. At least if you have come to Dubai as a resident, and especially if you have come from a place where you have a choice to attend, like India, I know you're here because the life is better here, the working hours are better here. So please don't forget to take advantage of that. Now, what I mean by enjoying life is, it's okay that you don't live in the hospital all the time. Okay, you will feel in the beginning that you're doing something wrong by not spending all your waking hours in the hospital. And the more you spend, and you will find people like that. You will find people who are kind of like, you feel like, do these guys never go home? Are they like always in the hospital? But don't get intimidated by that. If having a life simultaneously with your residency is something that's important to you, and by having a life, I mean having life experiences, then please, please, please make sure that you consciously take time to have those experiences. Make plans with your friends. Most of the time when they try to make plans with you, you might be on call or unavailable. So it is up to you, because it's your routine that's whack. Okay, so it's up to you to find a day when you're available, and to gather your friends, or to call your best friend, or to call your sister and be like, hey, I'm free this day, can we make something work? It's not their responsibility. They did not make this choice. If you have people who really understand and like try to work around with you, then that's amazing. But honestly, at this point of time in your life, it's your responsibility to maintain all of these friendships and relationships. So don't have that ego of, oh, they had that gathering and they never called me. Yeah, because you never are able to go, because you're always literally on call. So if you have free time, please make plans with your friends. Go have that coffee, go see that movie, go have that picnic, I don't know, do whatever. But please, please, please make sure you enjoy what little time you have off, with de-stressing and doing things you love, and laughing with family members, and chatting with your friends, and whatever it is that makes you happy. Okay, so leading a little bit to my last point, if traveling is something that gives you joy, as it does give me joy, having that last part where I said to save money is going to be very important here. Okay, now if you save money ahead of time, because as a resident, you really can't predict a lot of things too much ahead. Okay, because a lot of your rotations are like very, like, they might change. And so a lot of the time when you have to plan things like, oh, I want to travel, or I want to take some time off, it's very dependent on where you are, what rotation you are doing, and if how many people are going on leave at that time. So a lot of the things that you plan, like in terms of travel and otherwise, might be subjective to a lot of change and a lot of other factors, which is why you kind of need to be prepared with a little bit of cash stash back in hand, because you probably won't have time to put up a lot of money in savings when you decide to travel. Okay, so what I had that mentality was I always have a budget in the background, so that whenever I have the opportunity to travel, like money is not something that I have to think about. Like I can always, like, find something with, like, I always have a little bit of money and I can work with that money to find a place that's like reasonable to go to travel within that sort of a budget. Now again, if you're living with a partner like I was, like obviously his income is also a factor, but even though there was like a wide disparity okay, between my income and my husband's income, which is why I was like able to have a certain, like the way like I was living, and my living standards were obviously higher than what I could afford on my own. And I owe that completely to my, like, the fact that, like, my husband was in a different field and he was earning so much. But that still did not mean that I was not contributing. I was still paying whatever bills I could. I was still putting down money into the savings. It was a shared thing, because it was a shared experience. So when we traveled, I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm just sitting here and like blowing all my money on whatever I want and I'm not contributing. Have never been that kind of a person. I always wanted to feel like I have done my part and like earned this sort of feeling mentality, even though I know for a fact that my husband would have like not given a crap about it. But I was that kind of a person that I wanted to feel like, I was contributing. So I always put aside some savings to help with to like fund all our other activities and for emergency funds and to invest and whatnot. But savings is very important if you plan on enjoying life in a big way during residency, especially if you're by yourself, because residency doesn't pay like anything near what you need to have that kind of life. But if you plan ahead, then it's very possible to have that life, because when the opportunity arises for you to have that kind of life, you're not short on savings. Okay, which again brings me to my next point, which I believe will be my last point of the day. Yeah, and again it's going to touch a bit on savings. Is during your residency, your you kind of like, you have the next 5 years of, or like 4 or 5 years of your life kind of mapped out for you. Like, oh, you're going to be a resident and then in 5 years you're going to finish, you're going to leave. It's mapped out, right? But that still doesn't mean that you should be stagnant, or you should not be looking for opportunities. What I mean to say is, even in these 5 years, you have to be looking for what can you do to make your next step easier, right? And this was my mentality in medical school as well. I was always looking for ways to make my CV better. In the same way, all through residency, I was like, what exams can I give? What courses can I take? What can I do to, make this whole journey very fulfilling, and like hold this journey packed of things that I can put into my CV, so I become like a very nice candidate when I go into my next step. So please make sure that you are not wasting time away in residency. Again, I say that because you might think, where is there time to waste in residency? Believe me, there will be time to waste in residency because there will be certain times, and everybody in residency knows this, that you are going to be spending a lot of time on off-service rotations during residency, and many of those off-service rotations are going to be quite light. You don't have much responsibilities there. You obviously will be like, there will be certain rotations that are more hectic, but a lot of these rotations are quite light, and you're not in your primary team, so you don't have too many responsibilities, and you have a lot of time on your hands. What can you do in this time is plan ahead to give important exams. Like, I planned my MRCS exams during my rotations, like ICU and urology and all that, but I knew that I will have a lot of mental energy and time and space to actually prepare for the exam. So if you plan all of these way ahead, then you will know that, okay, fine, I can give, because most of these times these rotations are kind of set ahead. They are subject to change, but even then, at least if you have an idea of where you will be in certain time of the year, you can plan to give a very important exam that requires a lot of time and effort during that particular rotation itself. This again reflects a little bit back to the other point, where if you have not had any budget, say, because most of these exams and courses and everything are expensive, if you don't have the budget, you might find yourself in the right place, like at the right time to give an exam, and you might not be able to afford it because you did not think ahead. Okay, so again, that's very important as to why you have to always put aside certain money, because like I said, you will need it for things like enjoying your life, progressing your career, and it's very important that you have these planned ahead so that when the time and the opportunity comes, you're not faced with a financial constraint. Okay. Now, these are more or less all of the things that I did throughout my residency to make this journey as wholesome and as fulfilling as possible. Now, at the end of my training, now I'm like, as those who follow me quite closely know, I am done with my theory exams and I am awaiting my OSCEs. And so technically my training period is over. I've already received my certificate of completion, which means that my training phase and I have hit all the requirements. Now, I feel like all of these things helped make this journey really good. And now that I'm here, I can confidently say that my journey was great. It's obviously had its ups and downs, and the downs have been really low, the ups have been really high, the in-betweens have been, just monotonous. But overall, all of the points that I spoke about right now has made my residency journey memorable. It has not left me, traumatized and be like, I don't give out advices to people saying like, oh, being a resident is horrible and you have no time. No, I'm the person who always advocates and who always says that, hey, you know what, you can have a life, you can travel, you can get married and have a partner and have good family time and quality, like time with your partner, and you can have a pet, and you can do everything that like, you want to do, provided you plan well. And these are just a few of the tips and tricks and stuff that I used and I found really useful to like make my life overall what I wanted. Of course, there might be some things that you agree with, some things that you don't, some things you can feel you can implement, some things again that you think you can't. But if there is something in this video that you felt like, hey, you know what, that's pretty good advice, I think I can implement that in my life, and if you're planning to implement it or you put it into practice and it worked out for you, please drop it in the comments. I always feel very, very happy when I talk about things that I have done and like, from my experiences, and somebody else benefits out of them. It gives me joy, and that's one of the reasons why I do these videos. So if you found this useful, if you're finding it useful, drop it in the comments and let me know. I would love to hear from you. And this is me signing off from this video. Let's see when we will hang out next and what ideas I will bring up in between. All right, see you guys. Bye bye.